Easter doesn't start off happy. Let's not forget that Mary Magdalene has just lost the teacher she loves, who has changed her life, one who has made her believe that a new world is possible and that her life can be better than it ever has been. But he's dead. I remember when my grandfather died. He helped raise me, taught me how to read and write, taught me how to drive a car. We used to sit in a hammock and look through binoculars at rabbits and groundhogs. He meant the world to me, and when he died, I found myself picking up the phone to call him, because I would almost every day, and he's gone. Some of you have experienced that emptiness, that ache, that hurt of loss, of grief, of loneliness. That's where Mary is when she goes to the tomb. I want you to try to put yourself in her feet in first century Palestine. She's coming to the graveside. Imagine you have just been to the funeral of somebody you love, a brother, sister, a mother or father, a close friend, and you saw them buried. You heard the priest or minister say the words of their eulogy, and then you come to lay some flowers, to have a moment, to pray, and the tomb has been dug up, and it's empty. Your first reaction wouldn't be, hey, this is great. My God, who would do such a thing? Maybe you'd go and try to find somebody at the cemetery to find some answers. What's going on here? Mary, in a panic, runs. And she goes as fast as her hysterical being will take her. She doesn't know if the disciples are up or not. It's early in the morning. They've taken him. He's gone. Who? What's going on? What are you talking about? The Lord is missing. Somebody has messed with his grave. They've moved his body. To their credit, the disciples go. They run. In what I call affectionately kind of the heavenly track meet. Some of you know Joe Keys in our congregation. He's an all-American track star at Marquette. This text goes back and forth 3 times to say the beloved disciple got to the tomb first. Peter lagging behind. I imagine Joe Keys and I in a race. He wins every time. Right, I'm catching my breath. Why all the detail about who gets there first? I mean, was it so that the beloved disciple could say, I remember the first Easter. That's the Easter I legged it out before you and got there first. Was it a deferential thing because Peter's older than he was? Maybe Peter Pan. Was it, as some might suggest, that the beloved disciple had a close relationship with Jesus, loved him more intimate, got there first, but Peter has this special preferential place as the leader amongst the disciples, so out of deference to his position, he allows him to go first? I mean, why does he go through all these details to tell us? Does it really matter? Maybe, perhaps, because it took 2 witnesses to prove the veracity of an event in a court of law. 2 to say, yeah, it's not just what he said, but I saw it too. They go into the tomb. They see the grave clothes neatly piled there. Obviously, somebody hasn't robbed and just taken the body and left everything valuable there. But what's going on here? It says they saw and they believed. I'm not Sherlock Holmes, but what did they believe? Did they believe what Mary had told them? Somebody's moved this body? Thank you, guys. Did you figure this all out on yourselves, or somebody to help you? Did they believe that Jesus was risen from the dead? I picture Lieutenant Caffey and a few good men doing the prosecution here. If they believed that Jesus was risen from the dead, if they really understood Easter, then how come they didn't go tell anybody? How come they didn't go around town? Have you seen this man? How come they didn't go get the authorities and say, hey, something happened here. We're not sure exactly what. The tomb's empty. Can you help us out? No, on the one day that should have been life-changing, the day we celebrate today as the resurrection of Christ, life over death, on this greatest of days, they went home. All right, let's go back home. Really? Just go back home? That's it? Oh, sorry. And they left Mary Magdalene there weeping by herself. Who says chivalry's dead? Yay. Yeah. Not a bang-up job by the disciples the first moment they experience Easter. But before we're too difficult on these guys, too hard on them, maybe casting judgments on them like I just did, isn't the truth of the matter that all around the world today, in some of our churches in town, maybe even here, that we experience bunnies and baskets and peeps, and we come and sing about Jesus being risen, and we say some nice words, and then we go home. Let's eat. And Easter is just a day we celebrate. But that's not what Easter really is. Easter is the essence of our faith. It is God stepping into human pain and suffering, into the world and mess we live in, and saying, I will meet you not only in it, but I'll walk through it with you. You are never alone, and this isn't all there is. There is more than what your eyes can see and your hands can touch. I often say, when I'm trying to explain this to folks in terms of Easter, I ask people, what do you remember about being in the womb? Yeah, you know, when you're in the amniotic sac and the fluid. You know, you were there. Right? Tell me about it. Well, it's nice and secure in there. And when most of us are birthed into this world, a world that seems very foreign and alien, we come kicking and screaming. But we calm down after a while. We realize there's people staring back at us. We learn their names. We see beautiful things. We experience that this earthly life is pretty good. But we didn't know it existed before we were born. It was here, but we hadn't experienced it. No, as Mary is left there at the tomb, John goes through some painstaking details to tell us about this encounter. And I think it's really pretty powerful. When you think about it, the Gospel of John has more resurrection stories than other synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke combined. And in each one, though we talk about Easter as for the whole world, in each one, the Gospel writer takes us down to pinpoint precision to a person with a life story and a name. In this case, it's Mary. Next week, it'll be Thomas. And 2 weeks later, it'll be Peter. But in each one, Jesus draws near the one who shapes stars and moon and skies and calls our name. And this gospel story takes place, John doesn't say in a cemetery, but in a garden. The other gospels don't say anything about a garden. And then you start thinking about this whole story that the gospel writer has written. It starts off, if you remember, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And that sounds an awful lot like the story in the first book of the Bible, in the beginning. God spoke the worlds into being, back in Genesis. And there was something about God and these human creatures, and where were they? Oh, in a garden. In a garden. This intimate closeness with God in the garden. And then the human being said, we don't need God. We can figure this all out on our own. And it kind of went south. And here's the gospel writer saying, Christ is meeting his disciples in the garden, drawing near again, speaking our name again. What a beautiful thing. Mary is distraught through her sadness and grief. Easter meets us first in life's deepest fears and regrets, disappointments. But it promises us that it will not leave us there. Easter is about God making a promise that nothing, not even death itself, can keep God's love from reaching me or you. Yesterday, we buried a lifelong member and friend of this church in Ann Mullen. And at every memorial service, we say, in this house, death never has the last word. God has spoken her name, spoken your name, and your name, and your name, and my name. And says, you are my beloved. Mary, Thomas, Anne, Mark, Jason, Linda, Emma. It's a relational story. And if you look at the way this whole gospel is constructed, it revolves around questions. And if you pull them out, something interesting happens. Let me show you. The disciples, the first day they meet Jesus, they approach him and they say, Teacher, where are you staying? What are you about? And he says, you want to know? Come and see. Later in the story, Jesus asks the crowd, what did you hope to find when you went out to John the Baptist in the desert? Why did you go out there? What is it you were looking for in your life? A little bit further, Martha is at the funeral of her brother Lazarus. And he says, Martha, I am the resurrection and life. Do you believe that? And here at the tomb, Mary, who is it that you're looking for this Easter day? What are you hoping to find? Why have you come? There's this hole. There's this hurt. This world seems a lot larger than, and I feel overwhelmed, and my hope feels dashed. I felt this one who had changed everything for me is gone. And in that moment, he speaks her name and speaks ours. As I said at the sunrise service, the last couple of years have not been easy. Maybe they have for you. Maybe? No. Have not been normal. Some of us have struggled a lot. Been anxious, worried. Maybe even in despair. Maybe some of us this Easter, like Mary, thought it was all over. God's not really paying attention. God doesn't see the world like I'm seeing it. And maybe like Mary, we need to hear it again. Our name spoken. Christ breathing his breath on her, on the disciples behind locked doors in a hidden upper room and saying, I know the world can be a scary, dangerous place. But you don't go alone. You've never gone alone. I have known your name since before you could speak it. And you are beloved. That's why I'm here. Easter is about meeting us face to face. This God who is with us saying, nothing in this life or the next will keep me from you. Now, if we just were to come here and talk and sing about the tomb being empty as an event that happened 2,000 years ago on a hillside in Judea, it would be like a memorial service where we say a few nice words and sing a couple songs and then go home. And that's not whatever Jesus intended. He said to Mary, go. I need you to go. And I need you to tell people that I am here and alive and well. Tell them what you've experienced this Easter. Go and tell people Easter joy. Tell them that love is stronger than hate. Tell them that all our prejudices can be broken down by this one who has the power to move mountains and shape even of our stubbornness and our most stubborn hearts of stone. I can speak life into us again, who were paralyzed, who were stuck, who felt broken, who felt grief, who felt despair. And he says, come and see. This tomb is empty. Ain't no grave gonna hold me down. So, brothers and sisters, as we gather in this place, I want you to do me a favor. Easter depends upon you. Make no mistake about it. It depends upon you and me. And what we carry, not just today, but in our lives. Who this is and how he reshapes the world, and each one relationship at a time. We are called to, like Mary, go. Share good news. Otherwise, if the tomb's empty and we just go home, it's just news. The world's got enough news. But good news, life-changing news, turn the world upside down news, a refusal to accept the status quo of all our cruelties and violence, and this is how it is. It's a dog-eat-dog world. No! No, no, no. He gave everything, down to his last breath, to say no. The world can be a different place. And this cross is empty. Not going to hold me anymore. So how about it this Easter? Gatorade has a logo in their advertisement. Is it in you? I would ask the same about Easter. Is it in you? Is it good news to you? I pray it be so. The world needs messengers this Easter of hope, of faith, and of the love we proclaim. Happy Easter. He is risen. Let's try it one more time. I'd hope we'd stick that a little harder. He is risen. He is risen indeed. That's more like it. Amen.